The Upcoming Elections, Book 3, number 158, Chapter 49, Looking for Unbiased News. Absolutely nothing in my head today. No major ideas to throw out, no memes to be explored, no cool stuff to send out, nothing that needs being fought against or for. It's just an empty space. I tried just chilling until the creativity came, but no creativity came. I played the guitar for a while and played well in a way. Everything was crisp, but no bubbling up of pressing ideas. No lines of thought to ride down, no similes, no metaphors, nothing. I had a couple of small ideas about telling some allegorical stories that might mean something, but none of them wanted to stay in my head. Maybe it is just too hot. It's another record-breaking hot one. This must be what Miami is like. Miami must be an oven. If you get in your car today without a life and death reason, never talk to me again. If you contribute even 1 microgram to global warming for any reason that is not an absolute existential threat, we are not friends anymore. This is not summer weather for this region. This is not the correct weather for this region. And if we are having this, people to the south are going to be cancer victims within 5 years. And if you are one of these Russian, pain-loving, psychopath, Nazi S&M cocksuckers, just fuck you generally. And British Petroleum and American conservatives, you sons of whores have killed the planet. You're criminals, not heroes. That's a bright and cheery start. I was actually in a light mood before I got thinking about things. But wait. I'm sorry I said that. This sort of emotional screaming is not what this is supposed to be about. No. What this is supposed to be about is helping people make good choices ahead of the upcoming elections. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and not screaming like a fool. Okay, let's do something productive. So, my best idea is to just have a look around at the breaking news. And no, ironically enough, this does not mean going on the social networks. I don't want partisan hate memes. I want some news. Now, I do have some go-to places, of course, and there are many, even non-traditional sources of news that are very good. But what I want to do today is have a think about what news sources are actually out there and what I might expect from them. To start with, I just Googled the word news, and this is what I got. Google News, Google.com, CNN.com, BBC.com, FoxNews.com, NewsSky.com, ABCNewsGo.com, TelegraphCo.com, English Belta by NPR.org, TheGuardian.com. Google is American, but their algorithm knows me by location, language, and political sites. So I got kind of a 50-50 split between American and British sources with the official state news agency for Belarus. To get these sorted out quickly, I made a general Google search called "What is the political stance of?" and plugged in all of my sources. Here's a hint. I already knew the answers, but I have nothing better to do. But while checking Google News on Google, I found a site called allsides.com, which is an American-based news source which seems to print events and ideas in the national discussion and gives a left, center, right sorting to the original sources. Nice. The cover photo is a pictorial breakdown of national and international news sources and their political stances, and I generally agree with their assessment. Now, All Sides is a for-profit site, and requests for donations are more prevalent than any of their news sources. But if you scroll down past their opening blurbs, you find a very cool set of 3 lists containing articles from Indeed, All Sides, titled News from the Left, News from the Center, News from the Right. Interesting. All of the stories are hosted on the All Sides site, but references to the original sources are given. Again, just looking for an overview. The first 6 stories offered from the left are culture, the QAnon supporters winning congressional primaries explained, climate change, the environmentalist apology, how Michael Schellenberger unsettled some of his prominent supporters, immigration. He built a privately funded border wall. It's already at risk of falling down if not fixed. Voting rights and voter fraud. Can Trump's anti-mail voting crusade hurt him in key states? Violence in America. Baltimore protesters tear down Christopher Columbus statue, dump it in the harbor. Coronavirus. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Trump campaign official and girlfriend of President's son, tests positive for coronavirus. The first six from the center look like this. Education. Amid pandemic, fewer students seek federal aid for college. Facts and facts checking. Trump falsely says COVID-19 surge only due to testing. Misleads on deaths. Economy and jobs. World economy that took elevator down faces steep stairs back up. Media industry. Americans still follow COVID-19 news, though with less intensity. Many say this news is becoming more political. Elections. Kanye West tweets he's running for president in 2020. Elon Musk offers full support. Disaster. Michigan villages ravaged by flooding starts the recovery process. Still awaits state and federal funds. And the first six from the right look like this. Violence in America. Chicago suffers another bloody weekend during Independence Day celebrations. Culture. The woke mob comes for a federal judge. Violence in America. Minnesota governor pleads for federal aid. A sky-high bill for riot damage revealed. Media bias. CNN reporter calls Mount Rushmore a monument of two slave owners on land wrestled away from Native Americans. Arts and entertainment. Hamilton film offers our imperfect union a message of hope. Culture. Despite its government's antics, America has made moral progress in a difficult time. Okay, so what do I see here? I see that the left is hoping that the elections will solve something. The center is worried about money and the economy, and the right is interested in spreading as much fear and hate as they can. Interesting. So the first thing this makes me think of is that as a left-leaning guy, this explains why I seem to be so focused on the elections as meaning something. To be honest, this was kind of a shock to have the thing that I tend to think of as being most important thrown back into my face so obviously. I guess this is exactly like shocking my Belarusian friends and telling them how similar all of their thinking is, when in fact I'm also guilty of this exact same bias, as I am a result of my environment too. I do actually think, though, that how people vote, or even having a vote, is incredibly important. And I'm not going to back away from my stance that I am against the fact that there really is no democracy in Russia or in Belarus, and that the United States is in imminent jeopardy of losing even the illusion of having any sort of democratic voting. And I do believe that right-wing media monopolies in the Midwest and South are choosing candidates for both sides right now, which is also indicative of a lack of democracy. And absolutely, I do not believe that totalitarianism, or even corporatism, if this is a word, is the answer to the world's problems. The corporations are feeding us garbage and making us poison the planet by driving their cars. This is antagonistic to life, which to me is more important than profit. And maybe if there was totalitarianism that had something to do with people being free to live their lives reasonably while protecting ecological resources and keeping the planet in a state of sustainable cleanliness, you might have a mild point. People would not have to bother themselves with voting if everything was going along pretty well. But I would definitely prefer people to be educated and at least aware of where their money is going, and to be able to protect themselves and their families and communities by expressing their opinions of things. I am not talking about voting for cretins or who are misusing the system to enrich themselves and using public funds for hookers and drugs and free gifts for their friends. I'm talking about average people having brains in their heads and being able to say what is necessary for the survival of themselves and their world. And yes, for everybody on the planet, and not just white people. But yes, I do seem to forget that people are interested in having money. This centrist view is, of course, about money, of course. And this is what everybody's really thinking about. I mean, you might be a lonely and bored hate meme, stay at home amateur troll farmer using public discourse as your personal video game. Maybe you just get off on screaming. But at the end of the day, being able to stay in your house and pay for food and perhaps send children off to college is in everybody's mind. Again, everybody is a wage slave, so everybody is a slave to their wages and money and economics, and everybody wants more than they have. And yes, I really wish people would learn to live on less and not spend their money on their automobiles or national chain store products. I really wish people would spend their money on healthy things like whole foods bought from local markets and buying from local farmers. And yes, I really wish people would amuse themselves with more human-based ideas of fun rather than expensive games, or worse, participating in the furthering of jealousy as the main educational source for our young people. In fact, we should just generally teach everybody the meaning of the word jealousy in first grade and get this out of the way. But yes, I am quite aware that money is the root of everything, and of course, this is true for me too. Yes, I do kind of run things at a much, much lower economic level than most people. Why I do this or how I have come to this philosophy might be an interesting story to tell, but basically I pay my rent and my bills and I buy food and I have to pay for repairs to my bicycle and guitar strings from time to time. I definitely live on the cheaper side of the spectrum, but I do live in an economic system. No argument here. And yeah, let's give a moment to the right. What could I possibly say to justify what's going on with my conservative friends? That the right is fear-mongering is not news, but let's be fair, and let's say that life is boring and painful and probably pretty hopeless for most people in the lower classes. And of course, we have to factor in the jealousy quotient. People believe that they are supposed to be in competition with national brands in terms of their money and purchasing power. Well, this is a ridiculous game to start with, but they don't seem to know this. So let's say that what they're looking for is entertainment. So they're really not looking for genuine news because they're generally not interested in voting or making the world better. What they're interested in is getting off a good scream and a good yell and working out their emotions. And they are angry as hell, and obviously it is all for all of these interesting economic problems mentioned in the center. Nobody has enough money, they know this, and they are mad as hell, and they're not going to take any more liberal bullshit anymore. Fair enough. But really, I wish there was some way to talk to the people in the American Midwest and South and just point out to them that what they are actually angry about is this massively destructive and endless human meat grinder that they are living in. If they are angry, it is that they live on the lower end of wage slavery. And again, fair enough, this is exactly where the Belarusians are, 100%. But what they never get is that their situation has not been created by liberal spending. It has actually and completely been created by the corrupt misanthropes who control their public funds and their own spending habits. And they also never seem to get it that all of this yelling and screaming and hate that they are stuck on is being fed to them by the conservative media they so love. And they never quite get the irony that the exact people who control their beloved hate media are purposely keeping them in a state of emotional turmoil all day long so that they can't ever think their way out of their problems. And it's just drug addiction. Those whitey-righties at the top understand that their constituency is in a drug addiction circle. And this is true for illegal drugs, prescription opiates, and even legal ones like sugar, alcohol, guns, and of course, hate and racism and misogyny. Those poor bastards never understand that they are being kept in addiction circles as a way to keep people from actually noticing that they're being run. And, of course, they keep getting fed scapegoats by the people who are actually running them. It's just about keeping the slaves slaves. I have met more than a few drug users in my time. Thank you, California, for this education. And I know a bit about depressive people and people who are lost in depression. I know what these conversations sound like, and I know what the mental state of these people is. I also understand how people who make money off of easily addicted folks sound like. I have met a few drug dealers in my time. When you run into someone who is just going to drill into your pain and your negatives to bring up the worst things about you, you're looking at someone who needs you to stay down and broken. And if we are talking about drug dealers, what they want, what is most important to them, is to keep you coming back for more. If they can keep you in a state of failure, you never stop seeing how bad your life is, and you never stop needing your drugs. They are just trolling you. So if I wanted to be helpful, I should concentrate more on how to break this cycle and wake these people up. Obviously, one thing we could do is call monopoly on the fucking centralized media that has completely destroyed any sense of regionalism and with it, any hope of vested interest in local communities. If I lived in the town of Two-Headed Cow, Kentucky, I should really be into the local problems of the town of Two-Headed Cow, Kentucky, and to the politics of Two-Headed Cow, Kentucky, and to see how I could help out the people of Two-Headed Cow, Kentucky. And I should not be yelling at the damn liberals in California who are telling us how to live our lives. It's a waste of our time for the most part. It's not news. It's fluff entertainment. It's not even real opinion. It's just emotion button pushing. But yet, they don't really get that much of a chance to know about their own communities or even know what the politics of their local government is because the actual politicians running them demand that they stay focused on their main sources of hate. They get smokescreened by national issues and a national-based political point of view being dictated to them by a centralized source and, of course, the endless list of scapegoats. If we really want to help people, we have to get rid of Sinclair Media. You get rid of them, and you got a good start on breaking the addiction cycle and loosening things up. You do that, we can actually start re-educating those fine different people with some good ideas about sustainability and ecology. We do that, we have a shot at moving the country along. Okay. So the problem is that I want to further an argument that I do in fact want more democracy and I want more people thinking clearly and reasonably about the problems that they themselves face. I am in favor of regionalism much more than I am in favor of nationalism or having totalitarian governments or corporations dictate policy over our lives. Or in the case of the Christian right and the Russian oligarchy, who are demanding to place their anti-intelligence and quasi-morality ideas on people, I say we need to stop this and release the slaves. To me, right-wing Christian hate-based conservatism is just keeping people stupid, unhappy, and drug addicted. And this is no way to run things, or, if you're on the receiving end, to live your life. The latter out, in my opinion, is to understand that everything we do is a combination of what we do for ourselves and what we do for other people. I don't really believe that I can solve things through one vote, really. I haven't really believed that this entire series of essays is really about the day that you walk into the polling station and cast your vote. I kind of think what I'm talking about here is that we're supposed to vote every day by our actions and what we do with our money and what we do with our own lives. You think about what you need, but you also think about what your community needs. I definitely do not think the government has any right to dictate policy over my decisions any more than I believe the people of Pinsk have any right to tell me about what I'm doing with myself. If I want to go ride my bike, I'm going to ride my bike. And if I'm not causing traffic problems or crashes or hurting anybody, don't touch me. And yeah, I believe that people should have access to marijuana, which I understand has some inebriative qualities. But I do not feel it should be seen as a major narcotic or anything worse than vodka or cigarettes, which are abundantly available at all national chain stores, or sugar or factory foods and fast foods, which are equally addictive and physically and mentally debilitating. I believe marijuana is healthier to use, and I will lead people to a more delicate mindset than the brutal misogyny and hate that comes along with all of the normal for our people bullshit people use now. And please, if men want to fuck men and women want to fuck women, let them. What do you care what people do with themselves? Seriously, if two people want to spend time together to quell their loneliness, why would you deny them this possibility? What business is it what people do with their private lives? Because only drug dealers want to keep their clients depressed. And maybe the main thing is we have to understand that all politics are really about what we do with our collective wealth. And this is the real ticket, because what we have to do collectively is make sure that our money stays in our regions, actually gets used in our regions, and to keep it away from thieves. So what is the fair approach? In terms of our collective wealth, I think there are a few basics that all people need. Me? Food, clothing, and shelter for all people on the planet. Practical education that teaches vested interest in our own communities. Self-sufficiency. Education that might teach us the destructive forces of jealousy and the positive forces of being fair with others, regardless of skin color or sexual orientation. And that we should probably go vegan and ride bicycles. If we are talking about electing leaders, I just want to vote for the person who takes care of the sick people, the poor people, and the roads. I like the person who makes sure that everything is running and that they don't overspend and they don't waste our money on frivolous stuff or put it into their own pockets. Just try to vote for the most honest people for a change. I also want to vote for the people who find ways to keep the money local. And though some people who live in very poor regions may argue that they need national funds, and they do, simply not giving our national money to national chain stores would do a lot to keep money flowing within our regional centers. Just going to the local farmer markets to buy food instead of buying national chain stuff would help. Don't go to Piggly Wiggly or Safeway or Almi or Yeverwap. Go to the farmers markets and buy your food there. And hey, just stop buying food wrapped in plastic. Don't buy food that has to travel great distances to get to your plate. If you do this, you're not only eating healthier, you're also keeping money in your poor ass communities. And this will go a long way to help. And please, do not drive your cars. Ride the bus or ride your bike to get what you need locally. Pollution and ecology. Pollution and ecology. This is something that is for ourselves and everyone else. And by the way, I'm not asking anyone to vote for me. I'm not running for office. I just want you to do these things and then vote for yourselves. More tomorrow.